Nekomiya is part of Zenless Zone Zero's standard S ranks and has quite the personality. For some, she is annoying, and for some, this cat girl is going down in history. Regardless, if you like her or not, the cat's out of the bag now and ready to wreak havoc. We will cover her kit and how to maximize her damage potential, her best disk drive sets and stats, her weapons, her teams and her talents, and have a look at her pros and cons. Welcome, I am Rivenous, and let's talk about Nekomiya Mana. Nekomiya is a physical attack type agent whose playstyle is extremely fast-paced with incredible mobility and AoE and also multiple team options, suited well especially for free-to-play players while also being very easy to play. With 131 base attack, she is ranked 3rd among all current characters, only slightly behind Sujuan and Alan. That said, let's have a look at her kit. Nekomiya's basic attacks unleash up to 5 slashes, with her 5th attack having a 33% chance to repeat the same hit 3 times. You can also hold the basic attack button during any of the first 3 hits to cast Crimson Blade, which is basically a weaker version of her 5th hit, again having the same chance of 33% to repeat said attack 5 times. The 5th hit and her Crimson Blade may position you unfavorably in front of an enemy. If you have her signature weapon, this might not be what you want, but we also will get back to this later. There's honestly not much more to say about her basic, so let's continue. Perfectly dodging and pressing basic allows for her dodge counter for some damage, and pressing basic during a dodge costs her dash attack for some damage as well. Her assist attacks, quick assist, defensive assist and assist follow-up work as you would expect, and her special EX special chain attack and ultimate all deal very good AoE damage as well. And because there is not much else to say about this, I will keep her kit section actually very short. Reading her kit word for word while literally every skill says does damage is something you can do yourself. You don't actually need a guide to read that for you or to understand that. However, what we should do is we should talk a little bit more about her core skill. Depending on your core skill enhancement level, it will grant you between 30 and 60% damage bonus for 6 seconds when her dodge counter or quick assist hits an enemy. This is honestly somewhat of a problem, not because 60% more damage is bad, but because the duration of said buff is only 6 seconds. Just like most DPS, she wants to unload all of her damage onto an enemy while they are stunned. However, a stun lasts for approximately 12 seconds, and if the enemy cannot attack you because, well, they are stunned, you can hence also not trigger her dodge counter, giving you said buff. However, every quick asset also gives you said buff as well, and the EX specials and chain attacks of every single support character in this game does also trigger a quick assist for you. This is important for the team rotation later on. For her additional ability, having another physical agent or cunning harass agent in your squad grants her next EX special up to 70% bonus damage after inflicting assault. So that mostly covers her kit. Again, most of the skills just read do damage, so there's actually not much to say about. So instead, let's talk about her skill priority. Looking at her damage distribution, we can see most of her damage is coming from her EX special, basics and ultimate. However, we can also not forget about the core skill enhancements, which also provide passive stats and are hence super important as well. For her skill priority, this basically means we want to focus first and foremost on her core skill enhancements and EX special, then basics and ultimate, and lastly chain into dodge. Before we get to her weapons, disk drives, main stats and substat priority, teams and rotation, let's actually talk a little bit about her pros and cons. As I already touched on earlier, Neko has incredible AoE coverage with most of her abilities, namely her ultimate, chains and also honestly her dodge counter. She also has multiple team synergies with free-to-play characters and incredible mobility with her dash attack, which is very close to actually just being a teleport at this point. However, you might also notice how I said multiple team synergies and not multiple good team synergies. That is because there is no physical stun or support character right now, and that means she relies on the cunning Harris faction. The problem herein lies that her synergy with Enby, Billy and Nicole are either mediocre at best in the case of Enby and Nicole, or non-existent in the case of Billy. That is because Billy competes with her slot as physical damage dealer and they do not enhance or complement each other very well. As I already also touched on earlier, she requires either the constant use of her dodge counters, and because that is not very possible while enemies are stunned, she relies on her support to grant her a quick assist once in a while during said stun window. All in all, this means her endgame potential is quite a little bit lower at the time of release, but she also has more room for improvement compared to other characters. That said, let's cover her weapons. Her signature weapon, Steel Cushion, is her best in slot, but Brimstone or even the R5 versions of Starlight Engine and Cannon Rotor are solid choices as well, with Starlight Engine being the best free-to-play option. For her disc drive sets, a 4-piece Puffer Electro matched with either a 2-piece Woodpecker for more crit rate or a 2-piece Fanged for more physical damage are her best options, but a 4-piece Fanged, 4-piece Hormone or also a 4-piece Woodpecker are all really solid choices as well, with Fanged being a very consistent choice for overall a little bit less damage in exchange, whereas disc drive sets like Hormone can come out ahead of the other options, but are harder to keep a good uptime on for the perfect times. If you trigger, for example, Hormone Punk's effect too early, you might lose out on quite a bit of damage, and Puffer Electro is a very good choice if you can guarantee your ultimate to be ready for every rotation. Basically, all options are good choices, with Fanged and Woodpecker being the easiest and most consistent. For her main stats, we want to look for crit rate or crit damage on slot 6, pen ratio or physical damage on slot 5, and attack percent on slot 4. Pen ratio usually comes out ahead compared to physical damage, but if you have better substat rolls on a physical damage percent piece, both are close enough to each other that you can choose whatever has the actual better substats. Talking about which, let's have a short look at the substats, where our priority will be crit values into attack percent, into flat attack and flat pen. For her Mindscape Cinemas, her Cinema 1 is fantastic, especially with Steel Cushion, and if you happen to get her C1 by accident, that is actually really great, if not her best cinema to have. The only other cinema standing out is her C6, which is a pretty big damage increase, but as Nekomiya is a standard character, this one is highly unlikely to get. Her C4 and C6 grant her crit rate and crit damage respectively, which makes her also a little bit easier to build as well now, because, well, you need now less crit rolls on your substats to achieve the same damage results. Which also means we can continue with her teams. As previously mentioned, Nekomiya has a few teams, but none of them have the best synergy. Pairing Neko with Ambi or Nicole is a great free-to-play option, but unless your Nicole is Cinema 6, she doesn't actually do that much for Nekomiya. Another possible team would be to pair Neeko with Kolleda and Lucy, completely ignoring Neko's additional ability in exchange for a strong stunner and buffer in Kolleda and Lucy. That is actually okay, because unless you play Piper, you will actually never get consistently enough assaults to make great use of her additional ability. And Piper has the problem that she takes way too much field time compared to what Neko wants to actually allow her. Pairing Neko with Lycaon and Sokaku is another option which kinda follows the same playstyle as Kolleda and Lucy. As you can see, we have honestly many options with, well, not so great synergies to actually support Neeko and play into her kit. Instead, everybody else is supporting each other except for Neeko. So, last but not least, let's cover her, let's call it rotation, because it is honestly not really a rotation as you just press every button available. While the enemy is not stunned, we will focus on getting the enemy stunned and building up our buffs and the enemy daze bar by playing mostly the other two units, whoever you choose. As soon as the enemy is stunned, we will start off with our chain attacks into Nekomiya's ultimate, use our EX special as many times as we can and try to fit a very few basics in until our 6-second buff runs out. Now we switch to our support, cast their EX special to trigger Nekomiya's quick assist and get Neko back onto the field, and now we simply continue with basic attacks and possibly another EX special until the enemy is not stunned anymore. Rinse and repeat until either you or the enemy is dead. However, one thing you indeed should take care about, especially if you do not have her Cinema 1 and you do use Steel Cushion, which again is her signature weapon, make sure you always attack the enemy from behind. That all being said, thank you so much for watching, please leave a like and a comment if you liked this video, don't forget to subscribe and have a great day. Peace.